What's going on, everybody? Sean Pierce Johnson here with this week's edition of Stompbox Saturday, and on the Stompin' Block today, we got the Valencia from Tone Freak Effects. Now, any good pedal company worth its salt will take their own stab at the illustrious 808 Tube Screamer, and that's exactly what we have here with Valencia, but with a couple really cool tweaks that make this an incredibly usable and musical distortion pedal. So, let's check it out. You have the three basic controls that you find on really any drive pedal: drive, tone, and level. Pretty standard, pretty simple. Just how we like it. But the cool tweaks come in with what's done to the tone knob. Instead of that really, well, apparent jump from dark to bright that you get with the Tube Screamer, this has a much more even sweep, allowing you to fine-tune really the frequency that you want out of your drive sound. Really cool. I actually find that bright settings are really sweet sounding on this pedal. And then you have the three-way toggle at the top of the pedal. Now this is where it gets really flexible. You have the option to switch between asymmetrical or symmetrical clipping or diode lift, which takes the clipping completely out of the circuit and gives you a huge boost in volume. At the top of the video, you heard that diode lift sound in front of the dirty sound on my rocker verb. But let's check out the other options that we have on this toggle switch, both clean and dirty. So to really show you guys how the different clipping options sound on the Valencia, I'm gonna play in front of a clean sound. I have all knobs at noon, and we're gonna start with the far left setting on the three-way toggle. This is your asymmetrical clipping option. To my ears, it's a little grittier, a little bit more hair, and it's a little bit compressed, but nevertheless, it sounds really good. First, dry, no effect. Very nice. I noticed that this particular TS style overdrive sounds really good in front of a clean amp. It doesn't have that, well, bit of lacking sound that I associate with most of these types of pedals. Now going to the far right, that's going to be your symmetrical clipping. Now to my ears, these are a little bit more open of a sound. The notes maybe bloom a little bit better, they're not quite as compressed, and maybe just a little bit less grit, but nevertheless a really nice sound. Very nice. Now we come to the diode lift. Now that takes our clipping section out completely. You get a little bit of color and a little bit more boost by using the drive, but, well, this has quite a bit of volume boost to it. I'll show you what I mean. Back off the level a bit just so I don't clip the mic pre's. There you go. There's your three options. Now, of those three options in front of a clean amp, I really like the far right setting. I'm going to bump up the volume back just under 12 o'clock, bump the drive to around 3, and then add a little bit onto the tone knob. Figure between 1 and 2 o'clock. Get a little bit of extra brightness, a little bit of extra grit, and I find that that's a really nice, crunchy, bluesy sound that can actually clean up really nicely. Alright, let's check out those three settings with the dirty sound. Now, I've got a fairly crunchy tone going on the rocker verb, and this is what it sounds like. Now I'm going to turn on the Valencia. Like with the clean sound, I have the drive and the tone at noon, but I've bumped up the level just a little bit, about 1, 2 o'clock on the dial, so that you can really hear the clipping effect on the sound. Now we're at the far left position with our asymmetrical sound, and this is what we have. very cool. Really compressed, really gritty. I'm pretty sure we could turn this into a somewhat fuzzy sound if we really wanted to. Now switching over the far right for our symmetrical sound. Very nice. A little bit more open, less compressed, a little less, that clipping grit. Really, really cool. But my personal favorite is the diode lift, so that I can really allow the sound that I've already got to be just a little bit more, but with a slight bit of coloration to it. Very, very nice. Now my personal favorite settings using that, I'm going to back off the drive to about 9, 10 o'clock, somewhere in there, and then add a fair amount of brightness going up to 3 o'clock on the dial for a little extra articulation. I find that this is a nice across the board riffs and leads kind of sound. Now before we wrap up, I want to quickly show you the nice sweep that the tone knob has, making this a really musical and usable version of the TS circuit. Normally you get that mid-range hump. Well, that mid-range hump is gone, and you get a really drastic jump from too dark to too bright. Not so here. So I'm going to start in front of a clean sound on the symmetrical clipping section, the far right option on the 3-way toggle. I'll start it at noon, back it off counterclockwise, and then bring it up clockwise, and you can hear how that changes. As you can hear, you don't really get those super high highs and you don't get super muddy lows. It's a really nicely voiced tone knob. And I find that it works incredibly well in front of a dirty amplifier. Now, what I find with other TS style overdrives is obviously you're going to get that mid-range hump, obviously, but when you want a brighter sound to the overdrive, you typically get just kind of a squawky mid-range, and you get a really harshness in the highs. And like my favorite setting with the diode lift and then the tone knob turned up to about 3 o'clock, you really don't find that it's too bright. And in fact, I'll even jack it all the way up and you can hear. There you have it, everybody. There is your look at the Valencia from Tone Freak Effects. A very awesome take and a very musical take on that classic green overdrive that we all know and love, but this time in a very sharp-looking Ferrari red package. Thoughts? It's incredibly useful, incredibly musical, and incredibly usable, clean or dirty. What more could you want from an overdrive pedal? But that's just me. Let me know what you guys think. Shoot me a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for next week's episode. And until then, I'm Sean Pierce Johnson, and I wish you good tone and happy stomping. Cheers.